Lo que quiero es amor, nada de compasión. No, no, no lo sé si tú sabes que te quiero pero no lo ves. Yeah. Hola, quiero que tú sepas que te quise amar, pero la inmadurez me la jugó. Baby, eso no lo quería, no, no, no. Yeah, yeah. Hola, quiero que tú sepas que te quise amar. Solo una oportunidad, luego me voy. Sería chimba demostrarte quién yo soy, bebé.
When I started this channel, I had no idea the places it would take me or the lessons I would learn along the way. Many of those lessons I've shared with you, and I've had to taste humble pie more often than I cared to. This is one of those times. This is how I learned the lesson of complacency, probably my most valuable lesson to date. This channel has always been about highlighting my own failures so others can learn from my mistakes. This video is how I found myself in a foreign country over a lake at high noon with no safety floats and with the wind at my back heading towards a cliff surrounded by barbed wire because my engine just died. Here and now, I would learn the dangers of complacency and how not to be decapitated. I decided to fly down to Colombia for a few days to meet a master, someone who's been flying these magic shower curtains for a very long time, a legend of the sport and the grandfather of paragliding in South America. I've always wanted to try paragliding, and Colombia is a mecca for this sport. A few days led into 10, and well, the meeting I had with the man I was looking for was amazing, and it not only changed my life, but my hope is it will change the lives of many other people in the future. But that's not the story of this video. The trek to the top of the mountain, a hotspot of paragliding activity, is a bit treacherous if you're not used to the roads in South America. A guardrail is a rare feeling of comfort as a good portion of the road is not only steep, but relies heavily on the driver to keep aware. Some of the road is just wide enough for one car, but made for opposing traffic as well. But at the top, you are rewarded with a breathtaking view of the valley below. Before trying free flight for myself, I decided to take a tandem flight to find out where I could and could not fly, as well as get a good layout of where the thermals typically sprout up from, and an idea of where the landing area is in case I couldn't top land. I'm glad I chose the tandem flight because my guide, Daniel, was able to point out some information that I would not have understood if I was instructed from the ground. My first introduction to flying was hang gliding in the early 1990s. From there, single-engine airplanes, and finally a paramotor. I thought free flight paragliding would be very similar to flying a paramotor. But during this flight, I realized it was actually closer to hang gliding. You're constantly thinking about air currents and updrafts of warm air. You're looking to birds for advice and hopping from one invisible thermal to the other. I enjoyed free flight immensely. Note to self: do this as often as you can. Another note to self: paragliding pilots are better than paramotor pilots by a long shot. I had planned to stay for only a couple days in Colombia, but once I found out that my trip was going to last longer, I decided to use my free time to explore my surroundings, which was primarily the city of Medellin. Also known as the city of eternal spring, Medellin has had a very popularized, turbulent past, but in an amazing testament to the courage and character of the people of Colombia, the city is now safer than many cities of its size in the US. At no time while I was there did I feel even the slightest bit unsafe or unwelcomed. The people here were absolutely amazing, abundantly showing their friendliness and smiles, albeit under a mask many times. The personality of friendship and openness wasn't just limited to Medellin. I felt welcome in every city I traveled to. I've lived in too many cities to count, so at this stage in my life, I prefer the countryside and rural areas. And as I mentioned earlier, driving anywhere in South America can be a challenge, but some rural areas are especially difficult. Whereas in the cities, you are bombarded with fast-moving traffic full of more motorcycles than cars, and where the rules are somewhat questionable. Once you head outside the city far enough, you're just hoping for pavement. The countryside is not just a coffee farmer's and paraglider's dream, but the vast amount of tranquil mountains covered with lush greens attract many expats as well. Choosing to live a peaceful life of solitude is a temptation for many, as the quaint towns and villages provide a lifestyle so removed from the outside world that it almost seems like a small piece of heaven, with a bunch of stray dogs thrown in the mix. As nice as it was to see the countryside, I came here to fly, and as much as I enjoyed free flight, I missed having a motor on my back, so my friend David and I drove to borrow some paramotors from the man who I had come to Colombia to visit, the legendary Ruben Fly. From his house perched up in the mountains overlooking Medellin, Ruben stayed up late to make sure we'd have the equipment. This after he had just returned from Cartagena, a full 12-hour drive. His kindness and advice were not lost on me. That such a great man would also have a servant's heart and put my wants over his own need for sleep was very humbling to me. Note to self: be more like a servant to others. Another note to self: these paramotors just came from the beach, which is 5,000 feet lower than where we are. Don't forget to adjust the carburetor before flying. The next day, we drove 2.5 hours to Guatapé to fly around a large rock the site is named for. Unfortunately, the weather was less than cooperative, and we spent most of our time waiting for the winds to subside. Once they did, however, the rain came in and drowned any hope of flying that day. My plan was to fly back to the States the next day, and I seriously considered flying to Cartagena instead so I can fly in perfect weather on the Caribbean beach. But I decided to give Guatapé one more try and would return the following day to get in a quick flight before I boarded an airplane and headed back home. Which brings me full circle to the beginning of this video. Because of the long drive to this location, it was high noon before I could get off the ground. I was bound and determined to fly, and I knew I could get in a couple of hours of flight time before I had to board my plane. And that is how I found myself in a foreign country, over a lake, without safety floats. Oh, note to self. Start writing down your notes so you don't forget the important ones, like the one to adjust the carburetor before you fly. I initially noticed that it took me a long time to gain altitude because of the lack of power in the engine, because the carburetor wasn't adjusted as it should have been. But it was in the middle of the day, so I went behind the hills where the sun was and was able to get some lift off a thermal. Finally, with enough height, I decided to come down a little and work my way around the lake, only the engine wouldn't give me any power, leaving me no choice but to plow into a very small gap between some cement stairs and a barbed wire fence. You've already seen the video from the chase camera, and when I hit, the GoPro on the top of my head was sheared off by the barbed wire fence. But here is the unedited video from the camera I use for my audio track, which is mounted on my ear. The quality isn't great, but this frame you see now is the last one the GoPro took before being damaged. Anyway, here was the video from my point of view.
Father, please, 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 please.
That hurt. That hurts. But I am okay. No broken bones. Hit my head like you wouldn't believe. Okay. Alright. I just gotta figure out how to get out of here. I'm hoping I didn't bust up this paramotor. I don't think I did. I think we're still good. Whew. Okay. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Lord. Oh, look. A little worm. That's cool. Alright. This thing's heavy. So let's get the wing off first. We'll deal with that in a second. Okay. Please tell me I did not hurt Ruben's paramotor. That would be so bad. Okay. Well, I'm glad I hit land. That's good anyway. Alright, let's get up these stairs. See what the motor looks like. Hopefully no damage. Hopefully no damage. Man. Well, engine out over water. What you gonna do? Definitely not enough power. And that was just a little wing over too. Okay.
Let's see. Oh, God. Okay. So far, so good. Okay. Okay. Good. I saved the paramotor. A little dirt on the prop tip, but no damage to the prop tip. All right. Save me for taking it in the face. Okay. Now let's figure out this wing.
My mistake? Well, my mistake wasn't in not adjusting the carburetor. My mistake started here. I should have never left the ground. My zealous desire to fly had led to complacency, ignoring some pretty blatant signals to stay on the ground. I had become complacent, and I was very fortunate that my penance was limited to a very long trek up a very steep hill, helped along from a couple of children and their grandmother who had watched me fall from the sky. Though I didn't get to enjoy the flying of a paramotor, I learned a valuable lesson. Beware of complacency. Thankfully, I was also blessed. I was able to meet some wonderful people on my trip, and I will be back here soon to visit each of them. But this trip and those cement stairs will not soon be forgotten. If you enjoyed this video, please take the time and let me know by leaving a comment below or perhaps just clicking the like button. If you'd like to see more of this type of comment, subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you're notified when new videos come out. My name is Chris, my channel is mydogischoking, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video.